Hello, welcome to Good Games Well Played, episode 207. I'm Clint, aka JCM. With this week is Isli
Yo.
and Messiah.
Hello.
And we are going into the week of Summer Game Fest, which will be happening, of course, on the 6th, which is Friday. It'll be at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Good thing I'll be home because the kid gets out of school on last day of school is the 5th. So I'll be like, all right, I'll work from home. I'll be able to watch the 2 hour showcase live. But yeah, the whole schedule, the State of Unreal happens on the 3rd. So I'll be curious what they showed there, if there's going to be like any updates to the engine. Because I know like Unreal Engine has been doing really well visually, but there's still some performance issues with it. So I'm wondering if they are going to be talking about maybe iron out some of that stuff. And then, of course, Day of the Devs is right after Summer Game Fest. That's at 4 p.m. And then I think the Microsoft Showcase is, that's right, we talked about it last week. Microsoft Showcase is when we're recording next week. So, but I'm
Mhm.
assuming it'll just be, if there's anything from Summer Game Fest that they're going to show there, typically it's like, how it was with E3 back in the day, we'll be like, oh, here's the showcase, and then see gameplay trailer at our presentation. So there probably won't be a whole lot that's like held. It'll just be expansions on whatever Microsoft probably shows during Summer Game Fest. They're also going to have the Outer Worlds 2 Direct. So that'll be there. And then the PC game showcase will be later the day as well. And then apparently there will be a game premiere for Death Stranding 2 uh, that evening of the 8th. So I think from everything we've heard, it should be pretty similar to the first game, I guess. But go ahead and do your showcase. But yeah, it'll be a fun week. So there's not a whole lot of news leading up to that, since everyone's going to hang on to what they got. But the few things that we did see this week is that EA canceled their Black Panther game and they closed Cliffhanger Games at the same time. Uh,
Why?
Dude, yeah, I'm like, it's funny because I was like, okay, I don't recall which one was announced first, whether it was them announcing theirs first or Amy Hennig announcing her Captain America Black Panther game. If that came first. Now, obviously, I think the EA one was going to take place more like contemporary, where Amy Hennig is, during World War II. So it's like, okay, you could have a different Black Panther. It's not going to be the same character, yada yada. So you can have them exist. It'd be like making a Batman and a Batman Beyond game at the same time. Like you could have two, and it'll be fine because you get two different characters, two different timelines, yada yada yada. But yeah, they laid off. It's like the third round of layoffs that EA's had this year as well, which is freaking crazy. And
It feels just like it's such, I mean, I know this is obviously true, but they hire up for games and then they just lay them off immediately after when they don't have things for people to work on.
yeah, and they're
Well,
still
they were
making
working
the
on something. They just canceled it and were like, "Oh, you don't have anything to work on anymore. Bye."
yeah, and because it was only in 2023 that Marvel and EA signed a deal for 3 games, so they're still making other games outside of this Black Panther one. Like an Iron Man game, uh, and some other stuff. So I'm like, okay, but how many of those are gonna come to fruition?
Mhm.
You know? But yeah, it's like, especially with so much Marvel stuff in the works, like we started Skydance with their Marvel 1943, Rise of Hydra, Wolverine from Insomniac, whenever that's going to be shown. Again, getting an update on that. And then Blade from Arcane Leon. Uh, you know, how's that going with Microsoft? Like, are they staying up on it versus like Redfall? Are they making sure that they're, checking on the team and having Phil Spencer making sure he actually gives feedback, not just let them run solo? Like, what's he doing? So it's like, is it the competition you're worried about? Like not being able to, did they see the tech demo or that cutscene stuff they showcased from Skydance? That was pretty impressive. And then go like, oh, we're nowhere near there. Like I'm curious what they're doing. It's like I figure even if it was, just if it was a good game, I feel like it could have done well. Like I don't know, but
I
again, I don't know how much money they put into it.
I kind of feel like a lot of times the decision comes down to like they think something is going to be really popular in like 2 years, so they hire for it, and then a year or something later, they realize that the world is going in a different direction, or like games media is going in a different direction, or popularity, and they're like, well, we gambled and we gambled wrong. Time to lay off everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rough, feel bad for the team. It's gotta suck to be like, I mean, that's gotta be like the worst part of just I'm trying to think like how often are like obviously Warner Brothers has been, shelving movies recently, like the Batwoman and like that Looney Tunes or the Coyote versus Acme movie that's apparently actually going to come out now. I think someone else picked it up, the rights to like distribute it or what have you, or release it. I don't know if it was like who, I forget who, but I think it might be just digital release. Whereas like they shelved them and probably get some sort of like, tax write-off, yada yada. But it's like I wonder how many movies get shelved like that we don't hear about because movies are kind of the same way with games. Like we know early on, like, hey, a script got picked up for this. Like, look how long we knew about an Uncharted movie before one actually finally came out. Or like I just saw the Constantine 2 comments from Keanu Reeves, like there's Peter Stormare saying that he wasn't happy with the direction that they kind of want to go with it. And so it's like, okay, well, we're getting all this information well before that movie ever comes out, just like we do for video games usually. Get announced that, hey, we're working on this,
I
which it
The Keanu Reeves one is interesting though because that one was one of those ones where it triggered my is this just viral marketing thing. Like, and I wonder how often those leaks and comments are actually just viral marketing or marketing and not actually like, I guess it's still news, but like people testing the waters to see essentially, with the Keanu Reeves one, people are going to comment on it. And then it's like the studio has feedback of looking at shit and being like, oh, this isn't testing well, or maybe this idea is testing well. And I kind of wonder how often it's actually like that as opposed to actual leaks or us getting information from like a reliable source.
yeah, and I'm sure there's like, I don't want to like marketing manipulation like that, where it's like, hey, we'll put something out or we'll leak this little thing. Obviously the biggest one is like the Deadpool, right? Um, Deadpool got leaked out the test footage, and then everybody's like, oh, we want this, and then it's like that push studios to make it because like, oh, look at the positive feedback, yada yada. That's kind of the inverse of versus like, hey, let's test this. But I feel like the Peter Stormare case is kind of like I don't think he's part of that machine with who he is as a person. Um, I feel it was just like off the cuff, like, hey, yeah, no, this is Keanu's not happy with this. Like Keanu, because Keanu's not going to come out and say it, but yeah, I get what you mean. But yeah, because you don't necessarily see that in video games. But yeah, I'm curious, like how often, what's the hit rate of movies getting canceled versus like just video games straight up getting canceled so far in production? Because it's and like I said, if you're in the business, it's probably because I'd assume the majority of folks in games dev like the job because it's such a tumultuous industry in like the past decade, it feels like. So you have to want to be there. And it could be some people who's like, okay, the only skill sets they have perhaps wouldn't necessarily translate to something else. But I feel like there could be a lot of crossover depending on what department you're in. And versus like just people wanting the job. You know what I mean? Like just doing the job because you need a job. So it's like whenever you're making something, you don't get to put it out. That's gotta just suck as a creative, um, in any part of the process. But yeah, it's rough. We'll see what happens with their other Marvel games that they're gonna do. But I don't know. Weird stuff from EA. And then I saw that. So the Nintendo, they talked about how the Nintendo 64 games will be available on Nintendo Switch Online, plus the expansion pack subscription, and they're getting new features, but only two of those features will be available on the Switch 2. So the rewind feature and the CRT filter are only available on Switch 2, not on the Nintendo Switch, which I thought was really funny to put two little things behind. Because I'm like, you really can't rewind on the Switch
That's like
or the,
built into the emulator, I feel like. I don't know how you just not I mean I guess you could just not enable that feature, but it's kind of like that's just built into whatever emulator they're using.
yeah, I don't know, man. It's like Bluetooth. Like it was always there. They just didn't turn it on, right? So it's gonna be like how cars are manufactured with all the features, but they're just turned off unless you have the subscription. Like they're in there already. You just can't activate them because you don't have the. Oh, you gotta subscribe to heated seats. Oh, you want that CRT filter? You want to be able to rewind your mistakes in Mario 64? You gotta get a Switch too. But just silly stuff.
I
And
don't know.
then,
Is anyone surprised by it? It's like
uh,
feels normal now.
yeah. And then moving on, Hideo Kojima was talking about Death Stranding, and he mentioned obviously there's a film that's going to be in the works, but he said that there's an anime adaptation coming as well. And I feel like if it's an animated series, not just like an animated movie, like just looking at like Castlevania and like Devil May Cry, and I'm like, yeah, I could see Death Stranding probably, but then I'm like, okay, the art style it has to like fit that world as well. But I feel like yeah, an anime of it would be very, pretty fun, like a Death Stranding anime, have some nice creepy BTs, in an anime style. That'd be fun, but we'll see
Kojima's
how.
games are already very anime anyway, so if it's the medium.
Yeah, I've seen so many like anime fan anime bits for like Metal Gear Solid, and they're always
Mhm.
really fun to watch. And like, yeah, I could see a Death Stranding animation being pretty good. And then moving on, The Witcher 3 is getting another patch later this year that's adding mod supports for console, which is interesting. It's like this. I'm curious, like, if it'll be paired back because I think, like, for I'm like a game like Divinity Original Sin 2, like that got mod support on console later, but I think it's kind of an approved list, kind of like how Skyrim is on PlayStation as well. Like it's only certain certified mods. So I'm curious how scaled back the mods will be on the console because it is cross-platform mod support. But I can't imagine like everything will be every single mod that's there. Oh, it says here mods created with this must uh be made with the mod creator called The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Red Kit on PC. So it has to be from a specific mod creator, which would make sense. And then that one probably whatever tools they have embedded there is tied directly into the engine, which makes it easier to be supported on console. But
I guess that makes sure that like I mean you can always get mods on PC that don't necessarily work very well or like
hmm
cause issues. So I guess that's a way to
yeah,
make it so that
load
it
orders and
doesn't
shit.
crash games and stuff like that.
That was always the worst part of the Fallout 4 mods, like, "Okay, if you're gonna play them, you gotta load them in this order." And then
Yeah.
it's like, "Oh, one mod gets updated." It's like, "Oh, now it doesn't work with all these other mods." And it's like, "Oh my
Hmm.
god." Like, that's why, like, even I don't use many mods in Auction Not Included, but sometimes I'll boot up the game and be like, "Oh, there's updates for these mods, you gotta restart." And it's like, luckily, it just does it on its own in Steam, but it's just like, because I don't do, like, Nexus mods for them, it's just mods from the community that's on Steam, which is so much nicer. But yeah, like, the Nexus mods for anything is always just a pain in the butt. You're like, okay, do it like this, do it like this. But yeah, interesting stuff. Anybody going back and playing Witcher 3. And then the last bit of news I saw, which I thought was kind of funny, was that apparently in the first episode of The Last of Us season 2, they were talking about how they had to use CGI on Caitlin Deaver in the opening scene as Abby, and I was like, "How CGI to do what?" And I was like, "You didn't like CGI muscles. I don't know what CGI used." And I guess she had a bug bite on her face
Oh
before
my god.
like the night before filming, so they had to CGI out the bug bite because it was like it was pretty bad. Like you couldn't just put makeup on it and like you just stand out, so they had to CGI out the bug bite, which I thought was really really funny. Yeah,
I
what
mean,
she
that's
say
a
here?
good use of CGI, I guess. It's just like,
Yeah,
we're
That is
not gonna
pretty
cake your
funny.
face in makeup. We'll just figure it out later.
yeah. She says here it's the first episode of the Fireflies. I had gone home for a few weeks and got a bite on my cheek. I thought it was a pimple. It was not a pimple. It was a huge bug bite, and I hate to use the word, but it was oozing. It's like, yeah, they just had a
Oh, it wasn't just like a
CG.
bug bite. It was like she scratched it and it got infected.
It was like it was a bad bug. Uh, Not friendly bug bite. But yeah, it was pretty. I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, other than the news, like I said, not a whole lot. Like obviously, Night Rain came out ring this week. None of us are playing it. Seen some people talk about it. Apparently, it sold like 2 million units, which kind of be expected. People
Mhm.
want to jump in, try it out, yada yada. I know there's like people have modded in like duos on PC, but it's like, okay, that's great, but you're still gonna have like balance issues. Like that's why playing solo on it is like people say it's like it's not good because it's not balanced for solo play.
Mhm.
And then I guess I saw an article too about how I guess one of the button, like a command or a particular button input is different than it is from Elden Ring versus Night Rain. So people keep using an item by mistake because they keep hitting a button that's like mapped differently in the Elden Ring game, so it keeps messing them up. Like
That
you
is
gotta,
rude. I feel like
yeah,
that was intentional. I
that's
feel
like playing 2 first-person shooters at the same time, but one of them does like, "Oh, and instead of this being reload, it's this." And it's like, "Okay."
Well, didn't they change it to make it more fast paced, like the controls to make them more fast paced? I feel like it's the jump or
Mhm.
like climb button or something that they did that too.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and, like, look at what it was specifically, but I could see it, like, trying to streamline it, and apparently there's matchmaking issues too, and people are like, "Oh, if you have issues, here's from Software's like, here's what you do." I'm like, "Okay," but yeah, we'll see. I'm
It
curious, like,
it unfortunately sounds very average.
yeah, here it is. They say the muscle memory from the original Elden Ring is making people chug their flasks by mistake. So whatever the button is in is making them they're hitting the wrong one.
That's like that's not just like playing shooters at the same time. That's like playing through Call of Duty single player mode and then they change the reload button in multiplayer.
Yeah.
It's the same game. It's the same engine and everything. Like, why did you do that? That's so rude.
Yep. But I thought that was pretty funny because I did something like, okay, I gotta get past it. And obviously you could just remap it if you wanted, I'm sure. Well, not every game has a remap option, but
Mhm.
you just try to force it. If you're on PC, just be like, like, "Nah, I'm just gonna go on my mouse settings and change this," or controller settings and change that. But yeah. Other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, we're recording right before the week of Summer Game Fest, so all the big news will be next weekend. I'm sure we'll have a ton of stuff to talk about. Last of Us Season 2 did wrap this past week, and I know we mentioned last episode we hadn't really talked about it a whole lot, but they did kind of end it exactly how we thought they would. Direct,
Mhm.
big spoilers for T-Lu Season 2, but very much like the game. Although they did do the flashback to do Seattle Day 1 to kinda set people up with, because it was funny watching people like, "How did Abby know where they were?" And I'm like, "Okay,
Mhm.
okay." Yeah, like, it's funny because like, I'm like, I feel like everybody knew there was gonna be a 3rd season. So it was funny when like, "Oh, how did they know this?" or "How do they know that?" I'm like, "You're gonna get more," and, like, it's one complete package. Like, "Oh, what's," like, someone was talking about, "Oh, the war that's going on between the Seraphites and the WLF," like, they don't really show that, it's just going on in the background. I'm like, "Yeah, that's the point." Like, it's supposed to be in the background, and then you
It's not
see
the
it in the
focus of the
foreground.
story.
Yeah, it's like you're in the middle of a war zone. Like, it's like,
It is
I
it is going to be interesting though because I saw a comment of how they're essentially going to skip the God. Why am I blanking on her name? The actress that plays Ellie. She's going to be out of like an entire season, and this will be uh, the third main character shift in the show. Which for like a TV show is kind of weird to have 3 seasons of a TV show all with 3 different main characters.
I mean, that's pretty dope though. But yeah, Craig Mason did say they'd all, like, people who could be gone might show up somehow. So it's like it'd be cool if, like, because there is a lot of, for the game, again, spoilers for Tlu 2 and potential season 3 stuff. But like there are times where you are in close proximity to events that happen. Like Abby is at the hospital right before Ellie shows up at the hospital to kill Nora. And that's where you fight the Rat King. And so that could be interesting if there's stuff like you hear about things happening right before the, or like when Ellie or when Abby escapes the Rat King, maybe then you hear like gunshots in the background. Perhaps, she's going there to get the supplies to help the Seraphites, and go back to the aquarium. So it'd be interesting if like you heard the stuff in the background, like when that scene they show, and I don't remember in the game too. Maybe I don't remember when Ellie goes to the aquarium. I remember her like falling out of the boat, and you have to like swim, and it's like pretty crazy. But I don't remember her ending up on. Does Ellie end up on the Seraphite Island area in the game?
See that? I have no idea because we were watching that and I was like, I don't remember this happening, but I actually don't remember that section of the game very well anyway. Like there's I don't want to say like the whole middle part of the game, but there's like sections of the game where I don't necessarily remember them very well, either because they just all of the other things stick out way more. But I was like, I remember you going to the aquarium and Abby's not there, but I don't
Mhm.
remember getting there. I
Yeah,
was like, I don't remember going there. I think I don't I remember being in it, but I don't remember like how I got there.
yeah, I remember going there because it's very much the same. They do that scene with Jesse where he's like, "I hope you make it," and like he is very much like, "Hey, there's something going on with it's Tommy, yada
Mhm.
yada, got to go help him," and then
Yeah.
like Abby or Ellie in the game's like, "You don't know that it's him," and then he's like, "I really hope," and that's where they separate, and then she goes, and I do remember like falling out of a boat. I don't remember being like a boat with a motor, but I do remember like falling in the water and having to swim through giant waves. I just don't remember her going to the island because in the game, Abby is at the island, and she's the one who gets
Mhm.
hung up, and then you go back there with, the 2 characters, and shit goes down, and then eventually she comes back, and in that time that she's on the island, when that explosion goes off and, Isaac and the crew are there in the show, like, you're in the shit as Abby, and then Ellie kills Owen and, Mel, and then you come back, and then it's like, that's how she finds it, and I'm like really curious how they do it, and I love that. I do love that. I know I'm jumping around, but that I'm assuming you both watched the finale. Isli, you watched as well?
Yeah, I watched it.
Okay. I love that scene when, Ellie and Jesse are walking out of the theater down the hallway, and you see the down crane across the buildings in the skyline in the distance. I'm like, "Oh, Abby's gonna be walking on that. There's the sky bridge, and she's gonna be freaking the fuck out." Uh, like, these little hints they do. But, where was I? I diverted myself. But, like in the game, like Ellie pulls out her map, the one that you, because I'm replaying Tlu 2 right now as well, because I remember a lot of it, but there's like little bits, especially from Abby's side, that I'm like, okay, I don't recall perfectly these spots, but I'm like, okay, so I'll be fun to get there. But like in the game, obviously she pulls out her map and says, okay, you show me where it is, where she is, and then you show me she's doing the Joel thing, and then she drops the map when she freaks out that she killed Mel, and Mel was Prego. And the map gets left there, and you see the blood go towards the map, and that's how Abby finds where the theater that they're at. So I'm like, I'm wondering how she's gonna do it in here, because people ask the same thing. Like I said, how does she get there? Like I know how she got there in the game. I'm curious how they're gonna do it for, like, did we not see, like, did Jesse have a map? Does he drop it somewhere? Or does, like I'm curious what happens there, or is it like that confrontation with Tommy on the pier before he falls in the water in the game? Does he have a map on him that falls out of his pocket? Like, I'm curious how they're gonna do it. Or is it because they turned on the lights that
I
they're
feel
like,
like I need to replay the game because I feel like I don't remember any of what you're talking about with all of this. Like
yeah,
genuinely, I kind of agree with like Saya that the middle portion of the game for me is just like blank.
and I was surprised they didn't have Ellie run into more. I mean, obviously it's only 7. I feel like the season needed to be one more episode long. But she didn't run into that many Seraphites. Like you run into Seraphites a lot in the game, and as Ellie, um, like that whole bit when you escape in the woods, like you run into them there. You run into 'em, like, of course, a lot of it's solo, so you can't just always run into them. They only have like one big scene with the Seraphites where they're running away from the WLF. They go into the park. It's like, yeah, but that section as Ellie is huge, and then you also run into the Seraphites elsewhere. So it's interesting how they didn't have it. They had it very scaled back. I feel like, and that's the one thing where the show suffers is because it's two parts of a whole. There's a lot of questions. Especially now, we know the answers because, well, I know the answers because I played the game and I remember the majority of it. But like for viewers who don't know, it's like, oh man, they'll get more of that, but they have to wait. It's like a shame they couldn't do like the Matrix Reloaded and Revolutions thing where it's like release season 3 6 months later or
I
something.
guess, do we know when season 3 is actually coming out? Because I
There's
have read people like question, have they actually filmed a lot of it, or is season 3 going to come out shortly after, like not 2 years, but maybe like 6 months?
They're still Craig has said they're still working on it because they don't know if they're gonna need a 4th season, which is kind of weird to me because I'm like, okay, well, if you do the day 1, like you did the 4 days in Seattle here, you just didn't say Seattle day 4 when they walked out of the thing, the theater, Jesse and Ellie. I'm like, that's the 4th day. But I was like, okay, if you do another 7 episodes, you could do day 1, Abby. We already know Abby's backstory because you showed it in episode 1, which is another thing too. I'm like, I get why you had to do that for the show. Same like with that porch scene showing it, in episode 6 versus at the end of the game, which I feel like serves the game better because I love thinking that whole time that the last conversation she had with Joel was yelling at him and how painful that must be to, you know what I mean? To have your last memory with someone be confrontation. And then you find out at the very end that no, they talked. And because I love, and again, the spoilers for the end of the game, but I do love how that works out where, because in that fight with Abby, she's, drowning her, choking her out, and then she sees that flash of Joel on the porch. And you're like, okay, she sees Joel and she lets Abby go and says, just go, leave, everything. And then she goes back to the house on the farm, and then it has that scene like, okay, it all ties together. It all makes sense. You had the flash because you forgave Joel in that scene, and everything, and then it's like you're forgiving Abby as well, like, once you think about that ending retroactively. So it's interesting that they show that there, but it makes sense for a TV show, like, do that here. But also, like, not knowing anything about Abby except, like, okay, clearly Joel wronged them in some fashion, and you don't know they're fireflies, this and that until you get to, I let you live and you wasted it. Then it flashes back to the hospital before Ellie shows up with Joel, and then it cuts ahead to dad dying and her finding him, and then it's like, okay, now I know. Now this character I've hated, I understand where they're coming from. Versus people like knew it from jump.
I Man, I feel like this is going to be so polarizing because even with you being like, now this character I've hated, and I wanted to finish the sentence and be like, still hate.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people who do like, I didn't necessarily, like, I understood it, but I still didn't like them until I learned more about the character. There's because they do the same thing with her where they have that one episode in episode 6 where it's all they take all the flashbacks with Joel and put them in that one episode. I'm like, you could have, if you didn't show so much of and we talked about this before. I think it was just Zai and I on the podcast, maybe. If they didn't show so much of the WLF, which I like that they did, like showing Isaac, like that scene with Isaac chucking the grenades is so great. I love that scene. Seeing people react to that scene is so fun. But, like, seeing him torturing the Seraphite, instead of saving those for season 3, like, you could have done, like, okay, here's, the first birthday where she burns her in the show, she burns her arm, they have the cake, he sings a song. Do that as an intro scene, and then do the episode. And then the next episode, do another birthday bit, and then, like, they could have done it that way, just like they do in the game, because or do it where she's in the auditorium or on the stage and she plays a song, like, that's when she falls asleep and has a flashback with Joel. And then Dina comes in and they, yada yada, they move on. But she doesn't have that in the show. I'm like, oh, you could have put it there. Like you almost had it, but you didn't do it. Instead you just put it all in one episode, which is, fine for the viewers. Have a nice, not necessarily happy episode, but more like chill, I suppose, especially with what just happened in the previous episode. But they did say, yeah, they're like, okay, the whole reason I got distracted. You pull me off track. But like, I feel like they could do it in 7 episodes because we already know Abby's thing from season 2. You could do 4 episodes of day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. She catches up. Unless you're going to stretch out one of those days to be like, hey, a lot goes on between the WLF and the Seraphites. Like that's 4 episodes. They have the confrontation. Then you jump ahead and you have a day with Ellie on the farm with Dina and the baby. And then it ends with, or maybe it just ends whatever. Then the next episode, episode 6, Tommy shows up, says he found her, and then yada yada. And she goes, I have to go. And then she leaves. And then it's getting to Santa Barbara. Then I guess you also have to show, I guess for that episode, you could show half of it being Abby there with Lev and then getting caught. And then cut to Ellie showing up. And then episode 7 is Ellie getting there, finding her, the fight, the end. Like I feel like you could do it in 7, but they'd say if they can't fit it in a season 3, they're gonna do a season 4. I'm like, yeah, but then you'd have to add extra stuff in between the WLF and the Seraph, which is fine because I do want like an extra, more time. I felt like
I think where I struggle with the whole idea of a season 4 is just if you do a season 4, you're going to start running into the age issue, which is like super common. But Ellie is not going to look the same age anymore, especially after not being in the show for season 3 or being in the show for a minimal amount of time for season 3. That could be like 4 to 5 years away to essentially get one season of TV show. Like in order to get one complete story, you're going to have to wait seasons 2, 3, and 4, which doesn't typically work out well for TV shows. It just seems like a risky move.
I mean, I think age-wise, they're fine. It's not like they're the kids from Stranger Things where, like, they used kids. Like, they're, pretty old and probably they look pretty much how they're gonna look the rest of their lives, right? They're not gonna go through puberty like those kids did and be like the season 5 teaser for the final season of Stranger Things just came out, and then it's like, yeah, Noah definitely doesn't look like the kid who disappeared into the Upside Down anymore. He looks like in his 20s, but suspension disbelief. I get it. I don't think it'll run to that. I just think it's like you can't. I don't think audiences could go for it. Like you got to fit in there. Just do
That's
more episodes, man.
that's what I mean though, is like I don't think an audience is going to want to wait 5 years or 6 years total for literally one storyline. Like even even shows that have multiple seasons usually tell a complete story within that season. And this is where I'm kind of torn with like The Last of Us season 2 in general is it doesn't really tell a complete story for anyone. It doesn't tell a complete story for Ellie because it doesn't have the resolution which you need Abby's story for in order to tell a resolution to Ellie's story. So it's like there's no resolution for any single character in season 2, and I would argue there's no like end uh there's no there's no climax or like nice bow on it because of the way the game is structured. So I can't think of other shows where it's like you have no resolution to anything potentially for 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, when they split like Breaking Bad's final season into 2 bits, uh, instead of just doing one, like, okay, we're gonna split it into 2 parts. Like, you can kind of get into that where it's like, okay, it's like it seems like it's something's resolved, and it's like, oh, so and so learns about XYZ. And it's like that sets up the thing for the next one. And there are some things where it seems like, if it just ended there, it's like, okay, she comes to terms that she doesn't, because a lot of people, it's interesting watching people who didn't play the game think that, okay, I can see, hold on one sec, sorry, where if the show had just ended like before they knew how it was actually going to end, season 2, they're like, oh, she killed all her friends. She comes to terms with the fact, she makes up with Jesse. Their relationship is, fixed, yada yada. Dina says we should go home because she told her about Joel and the Fireflies, and then she's come to terms with the fact that like Abby's going to live. So they assume that, oh, it must be like they go home, but then now Abby's pissed off again that all her friends died. But then it doesn't. She's there and yada yada. So it seemed like it was interesting to watch them assume like this is how it's going to go. Like when you're playing it, like, yeah, I have been playing as Ellie for quite a while, but this can't be how it ends. And then it does the whole Seattle day one, like, oh shit. Like
Hmm.
mind blown. So yeah, they can't, they shouldn't start. And if they did, they would have to do because it would have to be like an epilogue season of like 3 episodes. And it would have to be like, okay, it comes out,
But
4
but the
months
problem
later.
with an epilogue season is like by the very nature of it being an epilogue, it shouldn't have like a climax or some big thing. So an epilogue season would essentially be a season of TV with
Right, right.
no like plot. It just doesn't
Yeah,
work. It'd be
they don't
so
call it an
boring.
epilogue, just call it like call it like do the Netflix thing where it's like, okay, you the Arcane, here's the 3 episodes, here's 3 episodes, like, okay, here's 7 episodes, and then the final 3, like, because 'cause they've done that with Stranger Things, they'll go like, "Oh, here's the first bits, and then the final 3 episodes are," because they're doing multi-parts the last season as well, and usually they're, sometimes changing some stuff in case they have to do a little bit, but, yeah, like, don't call it an epilogue episode, but they have to be like that's the only because you couldn't do, like, 7 episodes season 3, 7 episodes season 4. It could be like, "That's okay, that's adding too much into Tlu Part 2 to fill out some nonsense." It's like, but with what you did here, you could do it in 7 because you won't have a whole entire maybe you do have a
I mean, I
flashback
kind of
episode.
feel like this season should have just been like 1 or 2 episodes longer. Like it felt like they just truncated it a little bit too much and it needed like just 1 or 2 episodes more. And I'd love to know why they didn't do that.
Yeah, and I'm surprised, like, is it just yeah, I don't know, I'm curious, because they still added stuff, like, the whole Eugene bit, like, isn't part of the game, Gale isn't part of the game, like, there's so much that's, like they show more of Jackson that's not in the game, the whole fight or all the monsters showing up at Jackson doesn't happen in the game, it happens elsewhere. Uh, it's like yeah, it's interesting how much they included, uh, and still cut, like, I understand changing how Ellie confronts Joel instead of her going to, the hospital, finding the tape, confronting Joel there, the year prior to the events. Like just change all that. Just be like, okay, it's just suspicions, this and that, yada yada. Here you go. Combined it with the porch scene. I'm like, it works. You can do that. That's fine. But yeah, it should. I was like, man, I wish it was just like one more episode long. And be like, feel like it could have done better with 8. But yeah, I'm curious, like, what decisions are there that they have behind the scenes from a writing perspective? Like, okay, how do we make it 8 then? Because, like, okay, we have to do 50 more minutes of stuff. Okay, what are we going to expand? But who knows? But I feel like you could do Abby's bit in 7 with the epilogue, perhaps, unless they add more stuff. Like, if they do a flashback episode with her, because you'd get the same thing you have with Ellie, you have with
Am I?
Abby, where it's like her and Owen.
I kind of feel like Abby almost needs more time because they're going to run into the same issue that they had with Abby in the game, which is people are not going to like her. So they almost need to do a little bit more content to make people actually like her, to actually care about what happens in the end of the season.
Yeah,
Right.
but the way that they set the show up, they made it so that people empathize with Abby earlier, which is something
Yeah.
that like I didn't particularly love because the whole thing, the major impact for me in the beginning of the game is like this person just shows up and like
Mhm.
kills Joel, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, who even is this? And then later on, you find out who it is and what happened and why and everything like that, and you're like, okay, like I don't approve, but I get it, kind of thing, which is like basically the entire theme of this game is like, I don't approve of what you're doing, but I understand why you're doing it. And subtitle Ellie just continues to make bad choices throughout the whole game,
Mhm.
but like I feel like that's why they maybe had to put that at the very beginning was like, okay, this character is going to probably show up and do some really gnarly things. Here's why they did it. And it's like,
Mhm.
I get that, but I wonder how much of it also has to do with like, did they actually not know they were going to do a season 3? Because if they had planned from the beginning to split it up into 2 seasons, I feel like it would have been better served to save all of Abby's information for the third season. Because then you go through the whole first season and you're like cheering for Ellie, and it's like, and then you get to the third season, and you're like, oh no, which is how the game plays out. It's
Right, right,
that
right.
specific like that specific feeling and that discovery of like, oh, am I the baddie? Have I
Yeah,
been
are we the
cheering for the
baddies?
baddie? Uh-oh.
Yeah. And they did say from the when they're doing season 2 that there's gonna be a season 3. So they knew early on that they couldn't, because they said we can't do season or game 2 in one season. Like, so they
Mhm.
knew that from the jump. But I think there might
Yeah.
have been conversations with the writers being like talking about why they did, because I know they talked about like that's why they had that, one of the reasons they had that scene like we talked about with Joel and Ellie on the porch is because you can't say that, like the audiences need that a little earlier because it's different. And I watching people who didn't play the game react to it, like there are a lot of people who still they go, okay, like they understand where she's coming from. And they don't necessarily hate her, but they get it. Like there's not like they understand there's not good people on both sides, as they say. Like they know like, okay, everybody's got a something going on. And then especially at the end there with Ellie, like they're like, yeah, she's not doing great stuff right now.
Mhm.
uh and yada yada. And like the I did think that scene was kind of crazy that they changed with Mel versus how it plays out in the game. I thought it was like, oh damn, like I feel like it works. It appeared to have worked really well for audiences based on all the reactions I've seen. And it did work for me, but I'm like, oh damn, like she just wants to try to save the baby. And then like she like transfers and she's like, what does that mean? Like she
Mm.
doesn't understand. Like she can't do it. And then like it was pretty heartbreaking. And then Jesse just looking back for that second, and it's like, okay, when this comes to that scene when Abby has the knife around Dina's neck, and then Ellie tells her she's pregnant, and Abby says, "Good." You're gonna be like, "Yeah, I get why she's saying that because you killed Mel."
Mhm.
Like, I get it. And I feel like, and there's a lot of humanization you can do with Abby in season 3 as well because her interactions with the scars, and everything that happens there. And I kind of like the way they sprinkle in, like, that scene they have in the show between the one character, I forget her name. She had the son who died, and she's talking to Isaac, and Isaac's saying like we have a lot of Mels and Owens and Manny's, but only one Abby because he was kind of trying to shape her to be the next leader. So it's like, okay, that's interesting. Let's see how that's like seeding stuff for season 3. But yeah, it definitely very much is like one half of a whole. So it's like, but you're always going to have that issue, where it's like it's hard to resolve a lot. The only thing you can resolve is really like character stuff. Like I said, the Ellie and Jesse bit, like they're kind of coming to terms with each other. They have their conversation there that kind of resolves that. The Dina changing her mind and going through that growth of, okay, this is why, like I was all for helping, avenge Joel, but now there's like more information. She understands why the group did what they did, and
Mhm.
then she's also hurt and she's prego, and she's like, okay, well, we got to leave. Like this isn't worth it because we're just cycle violence situation, which is what the whole game's about. Um, so yeah, it is fun to watch people who played and then people who didn't. It is a really fun time, and it seems for the most part like people who didn't play it still enjoy because there were a lot of really good episodes, even if you don't get uh, it doesn't all tie out in the very end.
Oh,
Per se.
yeah, it's still great, and I still like a lot of the ways that I actually really like that they did that episode with all the flashbacks
Mhm.
together. I was kinda surprised that they did that, but I kinda like that they did that because it's very
Yeah,
reminiscent of the first season where it kinda pulls away and it tells you a little bit of a different story, like,
yeah.
leading up to the current events.
Like they do that with with the episode where it's all her and in the first time she gets bit, and it's like all that it's just all flashback there, which is the Left Behind DLC.
Mhm.
It's like having that as its own episode, but it's like going parallel with her trying to save Joel from dying from the stab wound. Yeah, and I think it works better with television to just do it all in one, because especially it's like, okay, you lose the character in episode 2 at the end of episode 2, they're not there for 3 more episodes, and then 4 episodes away, they come back for an entire episode, and you have some great performances, and then you get that and that whole episode directed by Neil Druckmann. Like, I that scene too with Eugene when he takes him to the like, and everybody says it, so I'm not, everybody has the same thought, but when he's like, "If you love someone, you could always see their face," and, like, Joey Pants has to, like that whole performance, and then it just pulls out and sees the lake and the gunshot and all the birds fly away, but you don't hear the gunshot. I was like, "What a great shot." And then, Timothy Dalton being the dad, I was like, "This is nice." That was a good performance there. I think we talked about this on the the podcast too, I think, about the whole like, it's like what 1983 in that scene, and he talks about how his dad beat him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, he does hit Tommy and Joel," and it's like, but never like his dad does. But it's so funny, people, watching me and like, "Oh, I can't believe," it's like, "You know what year it is, right?" Like we talked about
Right,
this,
yeah.
yeah, or like people back in like ancient times, and it's like, well, clearly they can't go against how things are. Like they might not like it, but it's like this is how it was. Like uh, it's like people were like this, whether it was good or bad. It's like it's really funny. It's like this isn't 2025.
The same thing of like he sits down at the table and he gives his son a beer and it's
hmm
like
hmm
that child's not 21, but
yeah.
this is also the 80s.
hmm Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's got to be hard because it's like, I mean, they should have given them. The problem is you have to take more time to write out the full 2 seasons, but it's like, yeah, it must be. I'm just curious how that goes because you already have the blueprint for everything, right? So it's like, how much longer do you have? Like, you have to write the dialogue, it can't be the same. And there's so much. Replaying the game. It's fun because like I'm just reminded of why games are superior in uh, because there's so many conversations between Dina and Ellie while you're on horseback going between point of interest to point of interest that just aren't in the show.
Mhm.
And just little moments, little bits. Like it was funny finding that building that they have in the show where the dog is the employee of the month, and finding that building again in the game is like, oh yeah, here it is. Oh, here's that tank. And this I was like, I feel like this is from the game, that tank scene in the show. I'm like, yeah, here's the tank in the game. They say the same stuff, talk about the astronauts, but it's an optional dialogue thing about the astronauts, where they just say it in the show, and then we're like finding the bank and the people that robbed it on Outbreak Day and they got trapped in the vault. Uh, just these fun little bits that you just don't get in the show.
I really wish they had included it, but I know why they didn't, like just for time's sake. But when you go into that one building and there's like a fresh plant and one of the doors are locked, but you go to the upgrade bench, you're like, oh, it's a safe area, and then you get
hmm
attacked.
hmm
I love that scene so much. I really wish they had included it, but I know why they didn't. But I was really looking forward to like that being a thing in one of the episodes, like
Yeah, because
something
they're
that
just
they had to go
people.
through.
Yeah, it's like they're just people. They're not the WLF. They're not Seraphites. They're just people
Yeah.
in that trying to survive. And
That could have been such a good episode, like, and it absolutely did not have to end the way that, it does in the game because it's a
mhm,
fight, but it could
yeah.
have been such a great episode.
Yeah, that is a funny part, like, watching that, because the bench always feels like it's like a save room, like,
Yeah.
in, Resident Evil or something. It's like, "Do, do, 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 do." It's like, "Okay, nothing's gonna attack me in here because 'cause I'm safe." And it's like the bench, "Oh, there's a bench. I'm safe." And then you just hear, "Dun, dun, 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 dun." And it's like,
May have been the first time I shit myself in that game.
that was so scary. I remember that. Like, watch there was a bit there where after the game came out, I'd watch people, like, reacting to that
Mhm.
and be like, "Oh." So funny. Yeah. But yeah, it is, and if they take too long, I feel like it's gonna be tough for non-game audiences to have to wait,
Any
for
kind of
that. So
resolution.
yeah, and it's like, yeah, you're gonna have to do like, how are you gonna open up? Is season 3 gonna open up with the bit where the doctor's talking about to Marlene about which is that cutscene in the game where the doctor's talking to Marlene, and he's concerned about the fact that they have to kill Ellie. And he's like trying to come to terms with that, but Marlene's pushing him to do it. And then Abby comes in and says, "If it was me, I would want you to do it. To do it to me to save the world."
Mhm.
And like just seeing the doctor, have trepidation about like, I I hate that we have to do this to this girl who doesn't have a choice at the time, because she's unconscious. Is a nice moment, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how because it's like, are they gonna do more bits for audiences to be like, hey, here's a flashback with Jesse and Ellie and Dina doing something at Jackson. How are they gonna kind of drip feed them stuff to while they try to, make them, watch the character who killed. It's so funny though. People who are like I saw an article from IGN, like, was it a bad choice to off Joel in episode 2? And I'm trying to be quiet so I'm not yelling because my wife hasn't finished the season yet. We only watched the first episode. And it's like, yeah, I mean, no, it's how it happened in the game. You can't delay it. Like, I'm sorry
Yeah.
if audit, and I do feel like if you can like a character, but or an actor especially, and if they're off, it's like if you can't continue, I'm like, well then, I'm
I feel
sorry,
like
Too bad for
my
you.
you're
Like,
this
weak.
isn't really like a counter argument to that. like it obviously still had to happen at the point it did. What I do wish though is that they expanded on some of the things, and honestly, I wish season one was tiny bit longer too, because I felt like while it had to happen when it did, that there were scenes and content that they could have elaborated on that would have been great to still have Pedro Pascal for, as opposed to, season one just kind of felt short. Season one and season two both felt a little short to me.
Well, season 1, at least, the first episode was 2 episodes.
Yeah.
So, that was nice that we had a much longer first episode, versus stretching that out, so I like that that one went as long as it did, because the execs were like, "It's too fucking sad, you can't end it like that." Which I thought was really funny. And then they have, like, a whole extra episode with just, episode 3 being what it was. But yeah, the people that are like, "I can't watch a show because the actor I like is gone." I'm like, "You weak motherfucker." I'm like, "The only reason I
You
watch Game of
weak
Thrones is because
motherfucker.
I only like Sean Bean. That's the only reason I started watching Game of Thrones, and they killed that guy at the end of the first at the end of the first season. But I watched the rest of it. I wasn't like, "No, the one
Yeah,
guy I
should you
like."
have though, or do you feel like you wasted a lot of time watching all of it?
No, it was fine. Like, I wasn't like, "Oh, man, the one actor I liked is gone. I gotta leave the series." Like, it's like, that just made me learn, like, okay, nobody's safe. Like, they can just kill anybody. And then it's like, it took a while before I started, like, being like, "Okay, now I like this character too." Or, like, I didn't like Peter Dinklage's character for, like, a while until, like, a couple seasons later. I'm like, "Okay, now I like this character because he's gone through his arc," or at least initially. It's like, "Okay, I like this character now." Or I like this character a little more because I spent more time with them. But I didn't just like drop from the series immediately because Sean Bean was killed at the end of the season. Like, all right, never watched it again. Like,
See,
but
I
that would have been a good reason to be like, oh, we're not going to introduce Abby's motive until later because it's like
right, because then
people are
you
going
want
to
to
be
know,
mad that Pedro Pascal isn't in it, but they're going to want to know why. But
yeah,
if you already know
why,
why, you're like, ah, fuck it,
yeah,
she was
and then
right.
it's like, yeah,
Like, and just move on.
which is why I think they had a tease, kind of like they have scenes with Isaac and the stuff that you don't get until that portion of the game. Because like, okay, there's more going on. Now it's like there's this war going on, there's these other characters, the WLF, there's the Seraphites. I want to know more about them. You'll get
Mhm.
more about them. So it's like even if you don't like her, you're getting more of that world building. And they could now there aren't a whole lot of points between like there's that scene with the explosion at the end of that one episode when Ellie gets bit and they're up on the roof and there's the explosion. Maybe we see that explosion from the WLF's perspective. So it's like, okay, that's the context. But there isn't like too much of that, or that scene in the last episode where the one dude from the flashback episode with Isaac chased that Seraphite. Maybe you see, I don't know why Abby would be there. Abby's off doing her own thing at that point. But like maybe we see more of that. But there isn't too much crossover, or we just hear about it like, hey, there's the radio station, something happened there. Because I'm trying to remember like how much in the game. I don't think they even know. Like they know that someone's killing them because they're looking for Tommy. They don't know it's Tommy, but they're looking for Tommy. And then yeah, there's not too much in the show where it's like, okay, we could show this perspective of this or this perspective of that, but maybe you can hear about something like, yo, there's a fight at the hospital. There was this thing here. There was this thing here. But yeah, I'm curious how they'll kind of weave it uh, into the season 3 to show like 'cause they don't like cause too much trouble. Obviously, yeah, they chase them into the woods after the stalker bit. There could be some conversations there. Like, obviously, we'll have that whole pier scene with Tommy. Like, it takes so long to get there in the game. Like, I forgot when I was playing it that, oh yeah, the sniper, this is Tommy. Like, and then you get there and yeah, it's him, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't want to, you don't want to kill him. And obviously you don't, but it's like, okay, how does this get resolved? And then
Mhm.
so that'll be interesting to see from that scene. Because I think that's where Manny dies in the game. I think is there. Because you don't kill him as Ellie. I do wish they had that one scene where the bomb goes off, and they don't kill Shimmer in the show, but maybe they don't kill Shimmer. But like the bomb goes off, they fall off the horses, and then Ellie gets captured, and then Dina falls through the windows, and then Ellie stabs that guy who was part of the group. He's like, "You can't stop this!" Like and the only other like for any of the scenes that are like one for one from the game, usually are pretty good. Like they're fine. Like I don't prefer one and the other. The one scene I prefer in the game is after Ellie kills uh Nora, she's shaken and she is like silent, and then Dina cleans her off because she's all bruised up, and then she says, I made her talk, but her voice is like shaky and she's
Mhm.
like traumatized by what she did. And they kind of try to do that in here, but they have like a conversation before it, and then she says it, and then she has the regret bit where she talks about knowing what Joel did, telling. I'm like, it for me, it just didn't work like that. I'm like, man, the game version did it so much better, but like they didn't characterize, I think, Ellie enough like that uh, in the show. I was like, this is the only scene that isn't working for me. I'm like, I like it in the game. Uh, in
Wasn't
the
the
game better.
game with Mel's death different too?
No, Mel, yeah, Mel's definitely was different because in that game, it's she shoots Owen.
Yeah.
Owen's he's hit in the neck. He falls down. Mel tries to do something. You end up I think you stab her in the neck. You don't shoot her, like you stab her. She falls down, and then Owen's like he's mumbling something between his breaths. He can't talk because blood's coming out of his mouth. And she goes, "What?" And he just says, "Pregnant." And then she turns around and she moves the jacket off Mel, and she sees her right, and then she has the breakdown. So it is different where it's like she accidentally kills Mel, which I like how they did it. It's like the bullet goes through the neck, grazes her Mel's neck, which is fine, and then she's like, "You got to get the baby out." Like that's like, oh shit. She says like, "I'm not like you," you know. So there's a little bit of that, but the Nora bit was just like that didn't work for me. But and then I do understand where people are coming from saying that between the game, people play the game where like it seems like Ellie's not quite as smart as she is in the game, and I don't know if that's done just to make Dina more not I guess more of a character in the show because I really like Dina in the show. Not that I didn't like her in the game, but I really like the actress. I think Dina's a great character in the show. Because she has to be there more. She can't like not be there with Ellie, you know what I mean? Like she's in the game. So I like that character. I think she's a great actress. And I wonder if that's why they made Ellie seem not as smart as she is in the game. Um,
I Yeah, I do kind of wonder how much of it is intentional versus how much is just literally acting, like just style of acting.
well, she's very rash and like just doesn't think things through. Like they find the WF towers, like okay, let's go there, and he's like, we shouldn't go there because of this, or like she doesn't know how to triangulate on a map. I'm like, you wouldn't know how to do this. Like you're smart at using the maps and figuring out stuff and learning things and knowing how to interrogate, like all these other stuff. Like she's not like that, and she's savvy in the game. So it's just surprised. But I think because and you also run solo in the game as her for most of the stuff after that first bit when she finally get to the theater. So it's like, okay, she has to be because you're only playing as her. So it's like you got to have a smart character. But in the show, it's like they got to run together. So I feel like they might have pulled her back a bit to make Dina stand out more. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably the only reason. But anyways, yeah, good stuff. I like the season, and it sounds like I know Zai, you said you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, it was still good.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's the things that I prefer in the game, and I like how the game
Hmm.
spreads things out more. But I like how they were done in the show, and I understand why they did them, and at least they did them well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought season 2 was better than average. I like season 1 more.
Hmm.
I think that honestly, like I kind of hold the same thoughts that season 2 suffers from the same things that the game suffers from, which is kind of like weird pacing issues. Yeah, just generally like weird pacing issues, weird choices, and in the game, I didn't think I'm honestly trying to remember, but like I didn't think they had characterized some of the intelligence of characters the best in the game with motivations or just like showing the actual cycle. Like they showed the cycle of, I don't want to spoil too much of season 3, but like they show the cycle of hate in the game, and I just thought that the game had weird pacing with all of it that made you not really care at points. I didn't really like the playing all as Ellie and then playing all as Abby, and thought in the game that it would have worked better going back and forth or some other structure. And I kind of feel the same way with the TV show. But like,
I
it's the source material. I never liked that in the game to begin with.
Man, I don't for me personally, I don't think that would've worked 'cause I still if I was just going back and forth like day 1, day 2, because I would've been like, I'm still backing Ellie the entire time. Whereas versus just being like going through each day, finding a member, taking them out, trying to get to Abby, finding a member, taking them out, and then dealing with the Seraphites, everything else, and then not getting there. Then she shows up and then
So
having to play only as Abby.
I think the thing I don't like in the game, without, it's so hard talking about this without like
I already
sparking
spoiled so much of
controversy. No, not
season
that. I
2.
was more of
Okay.
like, it just makes like it brings up some of the edge of the controversy that existed at the time, which I thought was all bullshit. But I did think there were valid criticisms that you could never like talk about because of the controversy. But like, I thought the first half of the game makes you hate Abby, and the second half of the game is kind of about making you understand Habby, but they're still making you play as someone you hate for like 80% of the second half of the game. And I just don't think that works super well as a game structure because you end up playing the latter half of the game as someone that you've learned not to like, and it makes a big chunk of the game, to me, less enjoyable.
Well, that's the whole point
I
that Neil talked
understand
about, right? That
I
it's not going to
I
work for everyone, but
understand
that's
that's the point. I
yeah.
just don't think it made it an enjoyable gaming experience. Like, I totally get that's the point of what they wanted to accomplish. I don't think that makes it a good game.
Oh,
I think
I
that, like, it
yeah.
makes it a good storytelling device, but not necessarily a good game.
I loved it because they didn't play the same either, and that's also what helped too, is because they weren't exactly like she could like fight infected so much better. You had different weapons. Obviously, they're guns are guns, but it's like you have different weapon set, and it's like being like because I had that shock of like, oh my gosh, I have to play this person I've been trying to take out. Okay, I see the motivation. Like I don't care. I still don't like this person, but then because you have to spend and like it's Stockholm syndrome because you have to spend so much time with them, see them change, their perspective of the WLF situation, yada yada, and going. It's like, okay, now I'm like, because I'm forced to. I want to get back to that theater moment. I'm forced to be with them this whole time. Eventually, I do change. It's like I talked about with like the Peter Dinklage character in Game of Thrones. Like I don't care about these characters. I don't like them. And then eventually I spend time and I see them get out of their unlikable bits or do something, start doing decent things. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to turn, which I don't think you could do if you did it back and forth, back and forth. I feel like I would still be too behind Ellie. And I get if it doesn't work for everybody. I mean, like I said, they knew it would work for everyone, but it's like you have to do something like that, like it's something crazy to be like, hey, let's see if we can make people like someone that they, or at least empathize with someone that they've hated for this whole half of the game. I'm just curious how well it's going to work for TV audiences, and it'll
We'll
probably be the
see.
same thing. Like you said, it'll be work for some and not for others.
Yeah. Like, I didn't dislike the game. I just thought that it didn't work as well as they thought it worked. Like, I get everything they were trying to come across, and my stance was still just that, like, I didn't love the writing in game two and didn't think it quite worked as like an enjoyable gaming experience. And I thought it relied a lot on the actual gameplay, and the story line itself was not as great. I should actually replay it and see if I
Yeah, but
have
someone who
the
just
same
said they don't remember
feelings.
hardly any of the game, you should you should replay it.
Well, I mean, I think that goes to speak to the storyline though, of like if I really can't remember the gaming stuff, but like yeah, I should replay it and see if I feel the same way because I know it was a long game, but I'm
5
like
years
if I
later.
wasn't
Yeah.
going through yeah, but like a 5 years later, separated from gaming drama, already knowing what people have problems with it, like I should see if
Right, right,
I
right.
enjoy it or not.
Yeah, that'd be good because 'cause I'm
That'd be
replaying
kind
right
of
now too.
a fun experience.
Yeah, was like, because I'm still in day 1. I'm not that far. I just got out of, like, the one open world area they have. I'm like, "I know I can get to this bank. Where the hell's the entrance to this goddamn bank? I know you can get into it." Like, I finally found it, like, "Oh, there it is. Thank God." I'm like, "Where's the horse whistle button? This isn't The Witcher. How do I get the horse to come closer to me?" I'll just rotate the camera and then make him spawn behind me. Yeah, that'd be interesting if you replayed it as well. But yeah.
The only problem is it's a long commitment to the game.
It is. Well, you don't have to do all of it. Just do like day 1 for a bit, just slow play it. Like I'm not playing all at the same time. Like I'm still doing other stuff and whatnot, but I am just replaying it here because I'm not just gonna stream it so I can play it more off stream and whatnot. But anyways, let's move on to what we've been playing. It's been about an hour. Since we started later. And we had a good conversation. I mean, it was good because we haven't talked about the Tlu show hardly at all the entire thing. So at least we got to talk
I know
about
it's
it
been
Mhm.
killing you too.
now that not no, it's not the killing. I just always forget because we're also playing Clair Obscur and like, okay, let's talk about Clair Obscur. And like, we had the big conversation about Clair Obscur last week. We didn't talk at all about Tlu. But you finished Clair Obscur. Do you want to give any of your thoughts since I don't want to not have your opinion excluded from
Yeah,
it?
You have
I
your wrong
finished Clair
opinion.
Obscur. I don't think I have a wrong opinion. My opinion is that both of the endings are pretty gray and dark. Like,
Both of
so
the endings
yes,
suck. Let's be honest.
yeah. Well,
Nobody's happy about
they don't,
anything.
they don't, yeah, they don't suck in that I don't think they're bad. I actually really like both
No, no, no. They're
endings.
great endings. They
Yeah,
Mhm.
what happens sucks.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of my opinion. Is I actually really like both endings, but it's like you goddamn French studio, you essentially gave me a choice between bad for reasons A and B and bad for reasons C and D. Like both endings are like ooh dark. Um, yeah, I finished it. I really enjoyed the game. I do think it's one of my like top RPGs. I loved both of the endings. They're so fucking dark. Neither one is neither one's like a happy ties everything up, nice pretty ending. Um, so I picked Mael's ending. The That was like
Mhm.
what I chose the first playthrough, and holy shit! Like immediately upon playing that was like, ooh, this has got to be the bad ending. You see like Verso crying and like begging to be killed, and
Oh god, I don't wanna talk about it again, man.
yeah. Well, you just like
Don't
you see
start.
him begging to like die,
I don't want
and
this
then
life.
you've got the disturbing piano sequence, and I was like, holy shit, that's fucking dark.
Mhm.
Um, so then, I watched the other ending on YouTube and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this one's also dark. Like clearly the writers frame the one ending, the ending versus ending, they frame it as like not the good ending, maybe the good ending. They don't frame it as a happy ending, but they
Well,
maybe frame it as like the good
they
ending with like camera techniques.
they call them 2 different endings too. They call it, like, the life of it's like the life of Paint and the life of what do they call the other one? The Versus one? It's the life of,
Painting and Love are the different
the
ones.
yeah, yeah, so it's like because they name them, I feel like they're, like, kinda but anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, so I watched that one and I'm like, Jesus, they're both dark. And then it was kind of fun because like this is the first game in a while where I've spent a ton of time afterwards, like just thinking about both endings. And I was sending like Zaya random messages of like random thoughts I had or things that frustrated me or things I thought were so cool for like the week afterwards of like, oh my God, I can't believe they did this. But
We talked for like a week about the
yeah,
ending and all of the stuff, like going back while we were watching JCM play it and go through it. We're like, oh my god, this is actually very good foreshadowing.
yeah, so like one of the things I loved watching you play the game was so much of the stuff that I was like, this story doesn't really make sense. When I'm watching you play the game, already knowing what's happening and like where the story went, I was like, oh wow, they're actually explaining it very clearly and like spelling it out for you. It's just without the context of the greater story, you think it's gibberish. And then you go back and you actually watch it again, and I'm like, actually, wow, like they pretty much exactly told you what's going on and the conversations exactly make sense, and it's just because you don't have the greater context that you don't get it. But yeah, I loved it. I do think the game has some issues regarding like act 3 content and like the difficulty jump, which I it doesn't really bother me too much, but I think it could have been like a little more polished. That's like maybe the only little knock. But both of the endings I thought were great. You and I went back and forth too of like whose ending was worse. And I don't know. I think my kind of thoughts are like Versa's ending is clearly meant by the writers to be the happier ending of the family has a shot at life, but it involves wiping out what is potentially like an entire sentient or sapient group of people or humans that were created. And I think that where you fall on Verso's ending depends on if you think that like the painting creations are real or not. And then with Mael's ending, it's like obviously Verso is, or like the sliver of his soul that's left is stuck in the painting, painting forever. And I kind of find both of them to be great because there's like big philosophical questions that could resolve it one way or the other that we just don't really get the information to. Like,
Mhm.
could the painting world actually survive without Verso's soul? No idea. Could like Mael paint in it instead or attach her soul to it so Verso could still be left out? Like there's so many philosophical questions that are kind of just left up in the air for you to interpret that makes it really fun to discuss because there isn't really like a clear answer either way because we just don't get that info in the game. It makes me kind of sad that we'll probably never get further explanations of any of this stuff in this game because if they make a future game, I can't imagine it's going to be like the Desandra family sequel. Like I feel like they would have to do a sequel based on some other IP or the writers or a different family or something like that. I can't
Yeah,
imagine it would still be like Mael and Renoir or any of those. So it's like,
someone
man, we're
else in the
never
Painters Guild.
yeah, like we're never
Mhm.
going to get the well, no, I shouldn't say never, but like I don't think we will ever get the resolution to like the Desandra family stuff, which is
Mhm.
unfortunate.
If we did, it would be in the background very much Tilu, where it's like we're a different part of the Painters Guild, and they talk about Clea, and she'll probably show up there. She's trying to fix things in the real world, and then you hear a bit on the background where she comments on it. Oh, my family is if they
Right,
because then they have to choose a canonical ending, right? If they do that, if it
right.
takes place after, but yeah,
I think it would be very interesting if we get the resolution to Expedition 33, but through information that we get in a different game. Like if
Mhm.
they do a game of the outside world with the writers and the painters and whatever other guilds they have and stuff like that, like the information that you get about the painters and the way that the paintings work and stuff like that, that gives you more information. I mean, you're never really going to get a resolution because of the two endings, but it gives you more information as like, okay, so bad ending was actually good ending, or good ending was actually bad ending, because now I know how the paintings work and everything like that. Like, I do like that it's left ambiguous, because then you can have like the conversations that Isli and I have about like, okay, well, it's actually good if this is the case, but we don't actually know. You need more information about the way that the world works. But I think in a sequel, at least if it's sort of a direct sequel or maybe a parallel or prequel or something like that, you get that information without ever actually referencing Expedition 33, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I see now.
I
Yeah.
Part of me kind of hopes that if they ever did that, that the canonical ending would be Mael's ending, because I think it would be so much more interesting reading about how, like, there's a paintress that's been stuck in a painting for like 200 years or something like that, or like learning about just like what exactly happens when you're stuck in the painting for even longer than like Eileen was. That would be kind of fascinating. Or learning that like, oh, paintings shouldn't be alive for this long. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah, or like, is it like if Clay's like, my damn, she's stuck in that damn painting, and like, is there a way to disconnect from the Matrix outside of having to go in there and like either take them out, you die in the painting, you wake up in real life, or is there something else we could do? Like, is there and like maybe you hear Clay trying to solve it, like, "Ah, I gotta get Mael out of there. Renoir's like, she's stuck in it just like I said she would be. She would just stay in there forever. She wouldn't visit on the
Right.
weekends." Like, and then they work it out or something.
Well, or even to find out like more about the world itself of like, are the painters and the writers actually like gods, or do they
Right, right,
exist
right.
in some sort of world that's like, do they exist in an earth, or are
Mhm.
they just, the painters and the writers are the only creatures in existence in this world, and it's a battle between two warring like godlike factions, and everyone else is just essentially like a lower plane of existence. Like, so much of that would skew how you felt about certain things. Like,
Yeah, true.
Mhm.
if they're really gods and they really have godlike powers, the whole concept of like souls and things like that becomes a totally different conversation. But if they're
And
just
it
like normal humans, it carries like a different weight to it.
yeah, and if there's a guild, like, clearly that means, like, they must have some sort of rule set, right? Like a like a Geneva Convention for paintings. Like, okay, if you're going to paint, you have to make it to where it can, exist in perpetuity or something like that. It's like because there's like then it becomes it's like an abortion conversation where it's like, oh, if there's life there, you have to let the painting live on its own. Yada yada. You can't kill them off. Like, do they have those kind of ethical questions about painting, like as rules of the guild or something? Like, did they
Yeah.
enforce them?
Well,
Um,
I heard two analogies that the abortion version's like one version of it that I'm kind of like, yeah, it sounds gross, but it's kind of like an accurate little thought process if you side on the thing of like the Verso's soul is the most important part. But then there's also the like,
life of the mother versus life of the child.
yeah, well, more of like, if it's the did Verso like when Verso attached his soul to it, do the painters willingly know that they're like attaching their soul to it forever in order to create life, and then if they strip it away, like
Well,
that it kills them? Like it's
that's
it's
why.
I would say it's less life of the mother, life of the child, more the parent conversation of like, if you have kids as a parent, if you die, it's not like you kill the kids right away. Like, you make a choice to bring kids into the world, and then you are responsible for the kids. So like
ri-
when Verso made the choice to create this world, does he instantly become responsible for the painting? And does his soul have to like keep it going forever? But then there's also the twist of like Eileen is actually the one that created those lives in there, not Verso. So it's super weird.
Right, but the world can only exist because the soul is trapped in there. So it's like, is it? But is the
Maybe.
thing like again? Well, it had. I mean, that's why it keeps going, because if he wasn't there, the whole painting would have like, because she gets kicked out, but it's him, his soul going away that makes everybody else, gomage out. Like, the okay, now the painting's gone. They're all gone because now the the foundation of it is gone. And she was the parent who leaves. The child can still exist and grow up, but the foundation of the world is destroyed. But then it comes back to the question of, okay, but can they log off and have a painting? Again, we talked about this last week, but like, if he didn't get killed, is it like, okay, if he dies of natural cause, or like at some point does he just go like, okay, I'm done with this world. I'm gonna take myself out of it. Like did he keep it? Is there a point at which you take it out and time just freezes for the people there? Do they exist in perpetuity because there's so many other paintings in the atrium when you go in there, whatever? It's like, okay, are those active? Is it only active when it's blurry and you're jacked
Right.
in? Like so is
Right.
it, and it's like, okay, but because the writers killed him, the guild's like, okay, we understand the ethical dilemma, but it's the writer's fault. Okay, now there's
Right.
something going on. Like I'm curious. There's like
Or
some
is
more
there
And
some
questions.
kind of rule that when a painter dies, their canvases have to be destroyed too? Because, like, otherwise pieces of
You
their
trap their
soul are trapped,
Yeah,
and yeah, so
they're
it's like
horcruxed in there. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like, okay, well, when a painter dies, we destroy all their canvases so that they can actually die.
Right. Yeah,
But if
that's like
somebody else
or
is
is it the
in there,
opposite
you can't
rule
do
of like,
that.
if you create life, you don't get that, or like maybe you're not supposed to create life in a painting. Like maybe that's like a big no-no of like you're never supposed to create life for exactly this reason. Like
or
there's
the
so
life
many.
could only be it could be only be like NPC like, where it's like
Yeah,
you write like, okay, this is the you can do just related to this, like they're not sitting it where like creating a
that would
program to do something versus like an AI.
that would actually be fun for a future game to discover that like the reason the writers burned the house and tried to attack them is because they were creating life or like breaking some sort of taboo. That would be
Mhm,
like a fun little twist on everything.
Yeah, like this one family was like, they shouldn't be doing, like they've done it so much, and every time they leave a painting because they talk about it been in thousands of worlds. Like, yeah, is it like, okay, you're just creating, you're wielding your power just willy nilly. Like you shouldn't be without thought. And it's like we disagree. Like we're fine that you have the power, but you are abusing that to just have fun, kind of thing. Like, yeah, you're the 1% who are just like without a care. Yeah, I'd be curious. And then are there sculptors? Do statues come alive, right? It's like Night at the Museum. Like, they're like, "Yo, hell yeah, when the sun goes down, we got this tablet from
I
Egypt."
know there's so many other art forms I'm curious about now, like just based on how they do it. Like, is it just painting or writing, or like, yeah, because there's like, can music create things? Can sculptures create things? I want to know more about this world. It's such a cool idea. And then on top of all of it, I absolutely love the gameplay. So it's just like, give me more. I can't believe I have to wait years for the studio to do something else.
Dude, hopefully
well, they
masonry isn't, because
do
imagine, like, just these Baba Yaga houses walking around and shit. That's gonna suck.
I love Baba Yaga house, I want that, actually. I mean, they do kind of allude Leah is also actually a sculptor. I mean, I feel like the manor is a very, like, you can allude a lot of lore from it, but it also is a way for them to just showcase, like, concept art and models and stuff like that. But when you go, there's a lot of places where, like, you see Nevrons not being, like, painted, but sculpted. And there's like half sculpted ones, there's like sculpting tools and stuff in what I assume is her room in the manor. So it's like you're not, and the fact that Verso, he only created one canvas and he really likes music actually. So it's like you're not necessarily tied to the house you've
Mhm.
been born into. You can also dabble in other things
Other
too. So it's
arts,
like
yeah.
Clea might be a
Or your
very
power
good,
exists in
very
one.
accomplished painter, but she can also sculpt too. So she has
Mhm.
this like secondary power where she can do sculpture too. So does that play into it as well? Is that like a separate guild type of thing? Are there rules associated with that too?
Yeah, or is it like you can't paint, but you can go into it, and because you can sculpt, you can create life that way.
Hmm.
Um As long as you're inside, the world, like, that's how you use your art. They're like, not everybody can make a canvas or make giant stuff, but whatever your art form is, you can bring that to life in when you're in this canvas kinda thing or something. Who knows? There's so many questions. But, yeah, great game. I'm really curious, yeah, what they're gonna do next. I mean, hopefully, they get a nice influx of money and, everyone's well
Yeah.
fed and what have you.
I mean, I love the game. I want more from the studio. I thought it was
Good.
fantastic. The conversations that have come out of it are just so fun. It was, yeah, absolutely a phenomenal game. I want like a collector's edition of it. I know they came out with one, but it's obviously sold out. I really want to like find one.
I feel kinda bad, though, because I was like, "Man, you knocked it out of the park on your first game." And it's like
Oh
the
yeah.
pressure is gonna be so high. You're like the Ken Levine of like, "Alright, you made BioShock? Alright."
I mean, there are a lot of people saying that this is like one of the best RPGs ever created, and I'm like, man, for that to be your first game, to be compared to like the classics of Final Fantasy, to be like in that realm, ooh, good job, and I don't envy you.
They were founded in 2020, so it's like, okay, it takes a long time. You got to build your work up. They're using Unreal. They didn't build their own engine, but it's like they got to recruit people. So now they have everybody. It is weird. I see so many memes on Instagram and YouTube Shorts where it's like because it does have some ex Ubisoft people. It'll be a meme of like two people like George Clooney and Brad Pitt from what's that Wolves or whatever, and movie, and it's like George Clooney's Sandfall and Brad Pitt's Ubisoft, and then it's like he's digging for something in his coat, and then George Clooney flips off Brad Pitt, and it's like, why is it always why you guys got to make it Sandfall versus Ubisoft just because it has some Ubisoft ex Ubisoft folks in there? Like, come on, man, be a little. What's up with that? But
Considering the current climate of like the games industry, not uncommon.
yeah, it just seems so weird. Like if it was like EA or something, like okay, yeah, like publishers that don't want to spend money with let creatives do their thing or something. But I mean, this is like what Larian Studios was championing, right? During their speech that the CEO had at the Game Awards or was it Dice or whatever. But yeah, I mean, they'll probably get a lot of love at the award stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
I feel like they're gonna clean house.
I just hope they don't. If they make a lot of money, obviously, got to pay the other people to help develop the game because obviously they're a small team, but they have a lot of outside help as well. It's like that they don't do that thing that other studios do where they do too much rapid expansion, and then it's like because now you have even more pressure for your next game to be financial success to support everybody who you just hired, unless they are what do they call those people?
Contract workers?
Contract workers, yeah, who just, like, come on for, like, "Okay, you're gonna work for, like, a year, help us develop it, and then when the game's out, you move on." Like, you see that a lot still in the industry, but it's like, is it gonna be unless they do that, it's like, man, I hope you guys don't expand too quickly. I mean, because that's what happened with, whatchamacallit, the people who made, The Walking Dead Telltale. Like, they grew too fast, and too big, after the success of that game, and then it's like, that was one of the reasons for their downfall. They just outside of just bad management,
I know.
they grew too quickly, and you hate to see that,
Yeah.
uh,
I mean, I
as
think
to
more than anything, I just want the studio to continue making good games and staying like this studio because they've clearly come up with something that works for them. They've made a great game, and I hope it's not a one-hit wonder and that they can continue doing exactly this.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, hopefully they, maybe France will be like, "Yeah, let's, put some money" like, some countries have a thing where, like, they really support their, developers in their country and what have you, and they'll give them some money. Some states do that in the US. I mean, that famously happened with Curt Schilling's game, right? Rhode Island gave him some money, but then the MMO never happened, and that game didn't do too well. But yeah, I do like their website. They have, like, their favorite games listed, pretty diverse. A lot of people like Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, Demon Souls, Devil May Cry, Persona 3, Journey, Final Fantasy 8, Civ 6, Elden Ring, Hollow Knight, God of War, The Order 1886, BioShock, Dishonored, League of Legends. But that's just a couple of folks there. But yeah, hopefully they get a bunch of. And luckily, it's not too early in the year to where it's gonna be like people forget it because it came out. Luckily, it came out kind of midway through, so people won't forget the how good the game was. But yeah, good stuff. So, are you playing anything? Do you move on to start playing something new, or are you kind of like just like working on your platinum?
No, I got the platinum. I've just been in the gaming void of like I finished that game
And now you
and I
don't know what to
liked it
do.
so much. I'm just like, what the fuck do I play next? Like
Yeah, that's the
whatever game
worst,
I
man.
play after, I'm just gonna be like, this is a garbage game, even if it's great.
Should
Yeah,
I
I
just
mean,
play it again? I don't
Yeah,
know.
like I don't know. I don't know what to play next. I'm
just
open to
play post trauma.
suggestions.
No. Uh, you just gotta play it like that. I mean, I had that regardless of the game. Like once I finish the game, I'm like, damn it. Now I gotta like I know there's other stuff because it's the worst when there's games coming out. Like I have games in this month that are coming out that I want to play, but it's like I have other games I could play, but I'm like I kind of want to just wait till something new to come out. So I'm like, damn it. What about you, Sai? What are you playing
Um,
besides
not
FF?
much. Well, yeah, basically just that. So after Clair Obscur, I finished it just in time for the Sea of Stars DLC.
Ooh,
So I
nice.
played that. It wasn't very long. I really, really wish it was longer because I really love that game. So I played that and finished that basically just in time for the 7.2. What is this update? 7.25 patch for 14. And it introduced basically the new relic quest grind, but they added a new side area called the Occult Crescent, which is basically the new version of like Eureka and Baja. Was there another one? I don't think there was another side area. But it's like it's a whole separate area with its own like leveling system and actions and kind of like sub jobs and stuff like that. So I basically just been doing that. So kind of all panned out in a way that I had something to roll into either a day or two later. And then I mean still like side stuff like catching up on Honkai Star Rail and little stuff here and there, but doing Occult Crescent has basically been what I've been doing, and I've been trying really, really, really hard not to buy the new Fantasy Life game on Switch because I know that will consume my entire being at all times.
Hmm.
But unfortunately, the new Rune Factory game is also coming out, I think, this coming week or next week. So that's going to be another thing that I'm going to have to either fight off or just succumb to it. The thing that made me kind of not want to get Fantasy Life right away also is they didn't do a physical release in
Oh no.
anywhere but Japan. So I was like, why is this happening? What the fuck? And if I wanted to import it, the cheapest one I could find, because it's not region locked and you can also play in English, so it's not a big deal
Hmm.
to get like the Japanese physical release. But to import
Yeah.
it, the cheapest one I found was $80, and I was like,
Oof.
I don't really want to right now. So I'll get it and play it eventually. And I was like, well, do I just go ahead and get the digital version? I did that with the first Fantasy Life and I regretted it. So I'm just gonna wait if I get a physical version. But if I can get a physical version of Rune Factory, that might be the end for me. That might be the next thing that I consumes my entire hyper focus.
Nice. Yep. Yeah, I after Clair Obscur, I jumped straight into post trauma because I was like, someone's got to play post trauma, so I played that and it was pretty cheap. So I
In
picked
a
it up.
It was
way, that
neat.
was the perfect game to play though, because it looked very fun.
Yeah, I mean, it had a lot of fun. I mean, it was basically just like a escape room game, kind of. It was fine. Had some spooky elements. Wasn't too scary.
I
It had
beg to
some like
differ, but I'm a big chicken shit.
if
So
I wasn't streaming and like playing in the dark, like yeah, there were definitely some bits where it could have been creepy, but like I didn't feel like any of the enemies were necessarily like, oh shit, it's this guy. Um,
mhm. There was
like
no
the
Pyramid
shark,
Head.
yeah, the shark was like the because I'm like, oh, I got on a timer. I have to try to do this if I'm going outside the door before they splash back in. Then I'm like, okay, on a rush. But it wasn't too bad. I liked some of the puzzles that they did. There was one puzzle at the near the end where it was like, I don't know how anybody would have solved this, or known what to do. It was just like really poorly like designed, I suppose. Like, you got to put pegs in this board based on like coordinates that you find for north, south, east, west. But it's like not every coordinate that you're given matters. So it's like, okay, now I just have to make a combination of either a northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast, and then try them all. The downside was the peg. There's no like feedback for the player on like, okay, if I put one in the right spot, it doesn't light up. Or give any feedback of like if I try it, if I put three pegs down, there's one they tell you where it goes. So it's like, okay, this one is two west, three south. Okay, that's one of the number of combinations that you could do. But it doesn't like if you put all three in, there's no feedback of okay, like that memory pegboard memory game where it's like, oh, two of the three you have are correct. Okay, so let's try this combination. Okay, now only one of the three. Okay, so this was the right one here. Okay, yada yada. It was just like just put them down and I'm trying two different combinations of two different positions at the same time and just have to cycle through them and it was just like poorly designed. I was like, this is bad. Luckily I got it pretty quick. I just purely guessing the order I went in. But it was like that was the only one I was like, okay, this one's kind of bad. But that game also just kind of ends. It was really shorter than I thought. I thought there was like more acts. There's only like five. Weird ending. Stories kind of like whatever. But some of the puzzles are fun. You pretty much solve them kind of right away because they're typically for the most part isolated in the one room you're in. There are a couple later on where it's like, okay, these are more like multi-part. Like you gotta go here, like the metronome bit. That was a fun one. Like, oh, like this goddamn buzzer on this basketball court won't shut the hell up. It's like, okay, it's because it's part of the metronome puzzle. But yeah, that was a weird one. And then after that, I didn't know what else to play. I've been, like I said, replaying Tulu 2. Not too far in that. And
That's
then,
actually a good one to replay. Or like after beating a game like Clair Obscur, you go to like average games or replaying like an old game that you already know what to expect.
yeah, 'cause I picked up the remastered, like the enhanced edition, whatever, for PS5. So I paid like $10 to upgrade the game, and then I downloaded and I just restarted a new Game Plus run. So I have all my stuff. I forgot that they added the tweak custom difficulty. So I tweaked the difficulty. I'm like, okay, let's make them very aware, very this, but same these things are normal, or these things are normal, but all like the heightened awareness. I don't want to make them bullet sponges, all that, and I don't want to kill like all the ammo. And then because I just want to I'm playing to kind of also get through it really quick. I turned on that accessibility thing where if I do listen mode, I can hit circle and it'll ping all of the items in a certain range. I'm like, that way I can know, like, did I miss anything? Did I not get this? It will ping like drawers, but I think it pings drawers even if there's not an item in there. So it's like, even though you go to the drawer, it's like, okay, well, there's nothing in this drawer. But so just like quickly speed up the exploration bit of it. But I'm looking forward to replaying that, especially getting to Abby's section. Because I remember a lot of Abby's. I remember more of Ellie's, but I'm like, and in the Santa Barbara bit. But I'm like, there's so many little things in between that I'm also really looking forward to go back to. Like, I really love that hotel part with Abby and Lev. I think that's a fun section with the infected that are in the walls. But you can like, the problem with the PS4 is I could tell which ones were like, it's almost like one thing like, oh, well, this wall is clearly lit differently, so it's destructible. Like, I can tell like, okay, that model looks like it's gonna move versus the other model that's stuck in the wall, so I shoot it ahead of time. I'm curious if they changed any sort of the lighting to be a little more not give it away kind of thing. But that'll be fun. I look forward to that. And then the 0.3 update for Grayson Warfare came out a while ago, and so I finally hopped into that, and that's been a lot of fun. They added weather. They also increased the performance, so it's like a much easier game to single PC stream now at decent settings. But the problem with the weather is like when I play it at night when I'm streaming, and when it's like rain and thunder, I'm like, it's very like ASMR. I'm like, this is just gonna make me fall asleep. If I'm just wandering around the jungle and I hear the rain come down, hitting leaves, and there's thunder in the background, I'm like, oh no, it's gonna make me sleepy. But they did some great quality of life changes in that, to where like now you don't have to go back to your operating base to like turn in your quests. You can just do it while you're out in the field, because that was like the worst part of, not the worst part, but like made it artificially long. Is like, oh, I got 3 quests. I got to go find this item, put a tracker on this thing, find out what happened to so and so. I do these 3 quests, then I have to fly back to my base, turn them all in, get the new quest, and go back out. And now it's like, no, I could just go out, do the quest, turn them in while I'm out in the field, and then continue. And it just saves so much time to do that. And they also tweak some of the missions as well. But and it's been fun going back, because I've already done all these early things, and because I waited, the town isn't flooded with a bunch of friendlies, so I don't have to worry about like people in the way. They also tell you on the PvP server, like, hey, heads up, you're getting close to friendly players. Make sure you identify your targets, and they give like armbands for your team so you can tell who's who. Especially if you get in like a PvP fight with someone elsewhere. There's a bunch of other things they did in the game that I'm looking forward to actually getting to, but that's been fun to go back to, because I haven't played that in quite a while. But yeah, other than that, not playing a whole lot. There is a DLC I didn't realize coming out for Adamfall. It comes out this week, I think on the 3rd. So I was like, oh damn, I didn't realize there was going to be Adamfall DLC. So I'll probably hop into that at some point. And then of course, the Ultras comes out later this month, and then Death Stranding 2 is at the end of the month. So looking forward to playing those.
Alters is the game I'm kind of waiting for right now, because I feel like that comes out in like 2 weeks or something. So that's the one where I'm like, I just need something to play for like 2 weeks until it comes out.
Yeah, that comes out the week before Death Stranding. That comes out on the I think 19th, 20th, something like that. Maybe that's a Thursday, Friday release. And then 26th midnight is or 9 p.m. probably is when Death Stranding 2 is going to come out. So I'm like, all right, and that'll be a fun one to play. Looking forward to it. But yeah, be curious to see what they announced at Summer Game Fest this week. If there's going to be any sort of big surprises. I haven't seen any leaks, although maybe if any leaks happen, it'll be like right before the show or something. But yeah, that should be a good one. And then we can talk about that on the next week's podcast. So yeah, all right. Well, go ahead and call it there. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Isli. Thank you, Zaya, for joining.
Yep.
And we'll see you all next time.
Later.